Happy Friday! Are you so excited that it's almost the weekend? And of course, that it's time for another 5 Things Friday. This week, I'm going to tackle author misconceptions. Mainly mine. What did I think my writing life was going to be like 20 years ago when I dreamed about being a writer? Spoiler alert, it's not what I imagined, but it's better. Stick with me for 5 things. Okay, so I was recently going through stacks of my old journals. I was a prolific journaler. From the time I was probably in like 5th or 6th grade, I kept yearly journals all the way up through college and even into my early 20s and 30s. One thing that I found when I was leafing through my journals last week was a note, a goal that I had written about writing my first book and then imagining what my writer life was going to look like once I wrote said book. It was hilarious to look back at who I thought I was going to be in the past and my wild misconceptions about what life as a working writer is really like. So I thought it would be fun to share these with you today and find out, like, are these still true? Are these things that you think? Are they myths that have evaporated over time? We'll see. Let's get right to it. Number 1, $1 million contract. That's right. When I was leafing through my past journals, I found my goal sheet, and my first goal on the list 20 plus years ago was that I was going to write a book and get $1 million contract. Huh, don't you wish? Right. Nice try, younger self. The thing is, yes, there are definitely celebrities who get $1 million plus book deal. There are writers who write just incredible books that go to auction and they do pull in huge advances. But that is the rarity. Most writers like myself, even working writers who have multiple books out, are not pulling in millions of dollars in this like lush contract. I thought that was so sweet that my younger self thought that that's how the publishing world worked. Number 2. I thought in my journals that once I had a book deal, I was going to be lavished with flowers and wine and roses by my publicist. The idea of a publicist, of having a publicist when I was in my early 20s was just something I couldn't even wrap my head around. Like, that seems so sophisticated, a publicist. Like, they must be wining and dining you and taking you to swanky rooftop parties in New York. Okay, yes, actually, my publicists do work in New York, and I'm sure they sometimes do attend swanky parties. But what I have learned in my real writing life, working with amazing publicists, is that they are the unsung heroes of the publishing world. My publicist works on more books than mine all the time. You know, most publicists are working on dozens of books at once, and they're trying to get them reviewed, and they're sending out early copies to make sure that bookstore owners and magazines read them, and they're helping get book tours set up, and they're just working tirelessly on tons of books. They're usually overworked. They're definitely underpaid, right? Right, publicist? You're with me on this one. If anything, I should be plying them with wine and chocolate and roses for all of the hard work they've put in on my behalf and on behalf of my books. So cheers to you, publicity team. And I'm so sorry that I was totally wrong about what your working life was like. Number 3. This is actually one of my favorite ones when I was reading back through my old journals, and it ties back to number 1, which was this. My number 3 is that I had this vision that I was going to send off the book and do no more work. I was going to send off my book, get, of course, my $1 million contract, and then I was jetting off to a tropical island. I actually said in my journal something about like, send off book, head to the beach. Like, I wasn't specific, but no, younger self, that's not how writing works. It's like any other job. You send off the book and then the real work actually kicks in. Once I send in a book, it goes to my editor and then a copy editor and page proofers and the marketing team and my publicists. And then once the book comes out onto shelves, I'm out marketing and doing events and connecting with readers. It's all work that I absolutely love. But I did think it was quite naive to think back to my goals as a young aspiring writer that I was going to send off a book and then just kick back on a beach with a Mai Tai somewhere. Don't we all wish? Number 4, bloody competition amongst writers. Okay, this one wasn't specifically in my journals, but it was an experience I had in my 20s. And that was when I was first trying to figure out what it meant to write a book. I should at some point show you these stacks and stacks and stacks of unfinished manuscripts that I started that went nowhere. I had no idea how to write a book. I just thought that I wanted to write a book. And don't forget, make $1 million and sit on the beach with Mai Tai. But I joined a writer's group early on without sort of doing any due diligence about what the group was going to be like or sort of what the parameters were around giving feedback. And it was really a terrible experience. That particular writing group was definitely not a match for me. The writers within that group were so competitive and protective of their work. They didn't even want to share pages at our monthly meetings. So I thought, well, what's the point of having a writer's group if we're not going to give each other feedback and share? Fortunately, I went on to find some phenomenal writers groups and find some writers who were definitely able to help me improve and strengthen my work and where I could reciprocate and do the same thing. As a side note, if you're thinking or considering of joining a writers group, you should definitely find one that is inclusive and welcoming and where you set goals that you as a group are going to achieve collectively. And you find a group that's going to give you constructive, positive, helpful feedback. But anyway, back to my point. I sort of had this impression after that first experience that writers were super competitive and ferocious with one another and obviously like highly protective of their work. That is not true in any way, shape, or form. My fellow mystery writers are my colleagues and peers. Also, I tend to fangirl many of them a lot because first and foremost, I'm a reader and I love reading. I read all the time. It's my favorite pastime. So of course, when I meet other writers at conferences or workshops, usually I'm the one like, can I get your autograph? I have a great story about meeting Kate Carlisle. Hi, Kate, at BoucherCon. It was my first BoucherCon. BoucherCon is a big mystery convention. And I had one little book out at the time, but I had just binged Kate's bibliophile series. And I was walking down the hallway and I saw her and I thought in my head, that's Kate Carlisle. Like, oh my God, that's Kate Carlisle. And I went up and introduced myself, I'm sure super awkwardly, and was like, I love you so much. So no, the opposite is true. Fellow writers are champions of each other's books and work, and we're able to have conversations and help each other out when you're stuck on a plot, or do a book talk or events together, which is so much more enjoyable. And I'm sure it is for you if you get to go hear multiple authors speak. That's always more enjoyable. So authors are great friends. Number 5. I saved the best for last because in my younger journals, my probably biggest misconception about writing was that it was going to be easy to write a book. Not true. Granted, with time, my writing process has gotten easier because I'm using those muscles and I'm writing every day and I've learned a lot and I've made a million mistakes along the way. And I still make mistakes and learn and grow. And that's the most enjoyable part. But is it easy? No. And my proof of that is if I date back to when I first decided I wanted to write a book, I think I was 16, and it took me until I was 40 to get my first book contract. So if you are out there thinking that, you're struggling and you're never going to finish that book, but stick with it. It might not be easy. It might take a while. There could be tears and some blood and sweat along the way, but the payoff is so worth it. I am eternally grateful that I get to write every day and share stories with you. And I'm so curious now that we've gone through these 5 myths that I had in my head about what my life today might look like. Is the same true for you? Were any of these misconceptions things that you held in the past as a belief, or things that you've kind of thought now? Or what other things do you wonder about in terms of authors and writing life? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for joining me for another 5 Things Friday. I hope you've enjoyed this glimpse into my inflated past. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the bell to get notified whenever I share new videos. Happy Friday!